What's going on, guys? Kyle from Ocean State Merchants back with another video for you guys today. And today we're going to talk a little bit about reseller burnout and kind of where I'm at, including being outpicked by a local police department this weekend at yard sales, as well as kind of show you guys what I sold over the weekend. So I have about 20 items that I'm selling, getting out the door. You're starting to see my numbers increase. So I had bad inventory. I've talked about it a bunch of times before, but my wife got hurt last year. During the yard sale season, I was the only one that could drive at the time. We have 2 young kids. My yard selling was very much depleted. I didn't get as many storage units as I probably should have last year. So my inventory was pretty dismal, pretty bad. I'd worked through a lot of it. I pretty much worked through all of it to the point where it's just a bunch of junk that really should just be donated, but I was listing it just to list. So I had a lot of $5 to $15 sales happening, and you're starting to see that swing up. So that's good as I start to get some better inventory. I just got a new storage unit. That is going to be pretty well. You're going to see a couple items from that unit here. And you'll start to see some of the numbers growing, as well as getting some items that, aren't super high sell-through. Everyone always talks about sell-through, how they want to have things that move super quick. I personally like to have some items. I have a decent sized garage. I keep everything here. I want to expand it at some point in my life. But I like having some numbers or some items as well that sell for $50 but might take 6 months to sell, because those are nice when you are getting into a little bit of a rut to have that big sale. I kind of used up all that good karma during this slow winter and going into the spring and now into summer. So I don't really have any items that will sell for a large amount on my eBay. As yard sale season's kicking in, that's starting to happen. But when you go yard selling, you probably pick items that are going to move a little bit faster. Storage units are great because I am getting some items that are really good that probably a little bit more long tail stuff, and some items that are moving faster than I expect. So that's been awesome. But as far as eBay, reselling, burnout, whatever you want to call it, I've been in a little bit of a rut. I've been listing pretty consistently. My eBay sales just are not really where it's at, and I know it's my inventory. I need to get better at sourcing, and I need to find some people that I can buy from. So I have a new flea market that's happening at the end of this month that's very close to me. So I'm excited to try to make some connections there. I want to meet up with 1 or 2 people that I can consistently buy throughout the winter. So if something like my wife getting hurt happens, I have someone I can go buy from. I've had this before. I worked with a guy for a little while. I did about 5 buys from him. The first buy was really great. Second buy, okay. Third buy, same thing. Fourth buy was probably shouldn't have bought that. Fifth buy was the same thing. So the quality of stuff was good, but the amount I was buying it for was not. Tried talking him down a couple times, and it just wasn't really working. So kind of felt like I got hooked in with the first one, and then we were kind of getting into what the real price is going to be going forward. What kind of broke the camel's back during that was he introduced me to one of his buddies that actually was, I met this guy at his buddy's yard sale, but he reintroduced me to his buddy, and he was just telling me some G.I. Joes. They were nice, the mini action figures. Some older ones. I think he had the number 1, supposedly. G.I. Joe, the very first one ever made or whatever it was. And I think it was an $800 value or something crazy like that. He had he wanted I want to say $2,500. He said he was firm on the lot. Asking questions about the lot, especially that first action figure, because obviously that was a big one that swayed everything. I didn't know how to check if it was real. I didn't know that kind of stuff, so that was kind of a big risk for me. I asked him if he knew it was real, and he said that he believed so. He just hadn't had the time to look at it. However, he had that lot, he said, for 3 years, and it was just time to move on because he was never going to do anything with it. So to have an $800 item that you haven't looked at in 3 years to see if it's real, something wasn't quite adding up with me. Further in the conversation, there was just oddities to his story. It didn't sound like the lot was going to be legit, or some of the figures may have been fake, some of the bigger figures. So I decided to pass on it. Since then, I haven't pursued going back to the person that referred me, and that person hasn't pursued going back to me. So we kind of just cut ties there. It's been about probably 6-7 months. I was buying at least once a month from him. So that kind of fell through, but I'm looking to get more consistency with that. And that's kind of just been the downfall to this. So this weekend, and it's just been a time thing, but this weekend my son has T-ball at 9 o'clock. Most of my yard sales start at 8, so I get about a half hour to go out. T-ball ends next week, so it's going to be my son's last game, and then for a little while I have nothing until both my kids will do soccer, which will probably be on the weekend again. But I'll get a little bit of time to go out and source and pick and really grow my inventory again. As well as, as I just said, I got a storage unit. But just kind of working my way out of that rut, getting more of the stuff that lasts a little bit longer, and just having a little bit of a death pile that I can go to. So like I got a KitchenAid, I cleaned that up, but I'm not going to list that. I'm going to wait till there's a time where, I'm kind of falling in a little bit of a rut again because things are starting to pick up, starting to feel better about it. So wait till things kind of fall into a little bit of rut, list that, and then that's one of those things where it's like, okay, now there's a $100 sale, kind of gets you going again. So little tricks like that have always worked for me. I kind of just worked my way out of that stuff and didn't have a good sourcing way to get back into that stuff. So really looking to kick that into this summer. I've also been sourcing like jeans, jackets, stuff like that. I keep my basement as storage. So I just have nice big husky totes. You might be able to see, you won't be able to see it. It's a little bit below, but the big like 22-gallon totes, they're pretty big. But I put all like my jeans, clothes like that, and then come, let's say mid-August, I'll probably start listing that stuff. So it'll keep me going through the winter. I'm trying to make sure I don't run into that same situation again. As well as like, it's everyone calls it like a reseller burnout, but it's a business burnout, right? It's being a business owner. All businesses fail. Thousands of businesses fail. Hundreds of thousands of businesses fail every single year. I don't know the exact stat, but it's like 80-90% of businesses will fail in the first 3 years. So it's just working through being a new business owner. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been doing it full time for 1.5 years now. Almost 2 years, actually. Maybe it's now over 2 years, to be honest. So it's just getting used to that kind of stuff and consistently working through and building. Problem is I want to build my business a little bit faster. So it's been kind of a little bit of a downfall there. But the real kick was this weekend. Went to yard sales and ended up having a first yard sale I went to. There was people talking about the police officer. There's a police officer there that almost hit their cat. And they're like, maybe we should bring the cat in because we don't want it to get run over. And they just kept on talking about this police officer. I thought that was weird. I've never really run into a police officer at yard sales. I've had it once before where someone was selling a bunch of signs, like stop signs and don't cross and like those kind of things. There were no like physical street signs, but like road signs. But police were there questioning that person on where they got all the signs from. So that was interesting, but that's the only time I've ever run into a police officer at a yard sale. Can't say that it's happened all that often. I went to my second sale. I was only going to be able to go to 3 before my son's t-ball game. Got there and the police cruiser was there. So there was a police officer at this next yard sale as well. And I thought that was a little weird. I was like, okay, like, is he going to all the yard sales like for some sort of reason? But didn't think anything of it. No one was at the yard sale, or there was one lady at the yard sale. She was kind of just hemming and hawing around like glass stuff and didn't really seem like she was like any sort of picker or any sort of competition at this. It was just me. When I walked up, there was a green Orvis tote bag that I picked up quickly. I later researched that and it was worth about $40 to $50. And then there was a Burton jacket there. It was a little bit beat up. It had a little bit of like rips on the sleeves, but a nice snowboarding jacket. As long as I can get it cheap enough, I figured it was still worth it. Asked the person how much the jacket was. They said $4. I was like, great. So I put the jacket on my arm. I grabbed the Orvis bag and I found some video games and I decided to start going through them. I didn't see anything crazy. I'm not a big video game person, but I know like some of the obvious ones, the easy layups. And at this point, I was pretty much having to head home to get to my house back in time for go get my son and my family and go to my son's t-ball game. So I wasn't copying anything. I was grabbing a bunch of stuff. I just recently got a PS2 from this storage unit. So I was looking for some games that maybe I can lot with that. I have a couple games already, but I was like, oh, maybe I'll put together a little bundle and, value the video games at like $3 a piece if they give it to me for $1, which is essentially what they charge me for them. And maybe I'll get lucky with some of the ones. I didn't grab every single one. I tried to grab ones I thought might be good, figuring I could, if they weren't, I would lot them together. About that time, the police officer came out of the person's house with a PS3, a big Orvis tote bag, and there was a bunch of stuff like kind of in the bag. The only thing I could see was the bag that I was holding and the PS3 on top. And so he goes to settle in, and I'm still holding the 2 items, the jacket and the other Orvis bag. And he tells the person, like, oh, I'm going to pick up that Orvis bag and that Burton jacket as well. So he obviously saw them because there's no way he knew what they were in my hand. But he could have seen that I had them. I don't know. But it's not like he went and got them and put them in a pile. He never really, it wasn't a part of the pile he originally had because he had it all in that big tote bag. and the jacket definitely would have fit in. I don't know if the other bag would have, but they included that in his price and he paid for it. I didn't hear that originally. However, they started asking like, oh, what happened to the jacket? What happened to this? And they were going back and forth. I didn't click in right away. And then the lady was like, oh, I have no idea. I didn't sell it yet. And I was like, oh, what are you looking for? Because I'm the only person there at this moment. The other lady had left. And they were like, oh, a tote bag and a jacket. I was like, oh, I have them. He's like, oh, well, actually, I already bought them. And this guy was in his police cruiser. He was in his uniform. He had just said there while he was talking to them, I did hear him say that he was called in. So for the towns around me, most likely you don't, unless you're much higher up, you're not going to go home with the police cruiser, especially on a day where you have the day off the next day. They're most likely not going to give you one to go home when, unless you're like a state police officer here, or if you're, as I said, like a higher up kind of person. So I thought that was a little weird. I'm 99% sure he was going around while working to the yard sales and picking. And then he was telling them like, yeah, I do yard sailing. This was after. So what ended up happening was I gave him obviously he paid for them. What am I going to do? Be like, no, I have them. Like I'm going to argue with a cop at a yard sale. So I gave him back the tote or the bag and the jacket. And I kind of just walked around a little bit. I didn't see anything else that stood out to me super quickly. So then I kind of waited for them to finish their transaction. While they were talking for a little bit, he was telling them that, he likes to wait to give back to the communities. He likes to stop at the yard sale, see if he can, give back some money to the community. So he's a picker. He's doing that. And then the real kicker to me was the fact that at the end, any of the video games I didn't grab, and because he was a video game fan, I'm presuming he went in the house, asked if they had any video game stuff, and they're like, oh, we have a PS3. And they probably invited him in to go grab it. She just dumped all the other video games into his bag and said just have them for free. Then she went and grabbed a couple more things that he had been talking about. So that was a little wild to me. Sorry, halfway coughing here, but a little bit of a wild scenario for me. I wasn't quite expecting that and didn't really know how to react in the moment. Obviously, it is what it is. I'm not going to fight over something that I never actually bought or had. And obviously he did see it at some point, but definitely a little weird of a situation, but like, you're in a rut trying to get inventory, and this is my life. This is how this kind of stuff happens. So that was my weekend. Like, it just keeps on piling in and piling on. But as I said, getting out of the inventory rut, and I am going to break down kind of how I view my business too. I've been looking at it monthly. Now I'm going to look at it from weekly standpoints, right? It's easy to look at how many sales I have last night, or it's easy to look at the month total, but really looking at my week over week, like how am I doing against myself each week? Only downfall of this is I'm going to Disney in about 3 weeks, so that's going to then again fall down. But I want to start doing it and get myself into that routine a little bit. But quickly show you guys the items I sold. You guys will see a little bit of an increase here, and some of these are pretty cool from the storage unit. I'll start with my 2 Poshmark sales. So the first sale I have, $18. We sold this crystal. It's a candle, so it's like one of those crystal rock candles. They don't have crazy value, and I tried to take a lot of good pictures because you can see this main crystal is pretty chipped up. Not the cleanest thing, not the best condition in the world, but still not a bad little piece for $18. I had that up for $25. Someone sent me an offer. I hate getting offers on Poshmark because usually they're ridiculous, and my sister was the one that got me into Poshmark. She likes to buy and sell clothes. She doesn't do it a ton and kind of faded way off, but she used to tell me like the game of Poshmark and like getting like people like stuff or edit to their bundle. They want you to send a discount and give free shipping, all that. I don't do any of that stuff. So for the most part, if you don't send me an offer or if you don't like move on, then I don't do it. And then Poshmark, usually like you'll have an item for $50, you get an offer for $5. And my natural tendency is just to be like, this isn't worth my time. But I think people usually want you to negotiate on Poshmark. But in this case, $18 off $25, an item that I didn't think would sell super fast or easily. I'm going to get rid of that all day long. Next thing we sold, $45. This is like a Gwen Stefani brand lamp. This came from that storage unit as well as that crystal. This thing is like not used. So this person had a healthy amount of purses in their unit, like Coach, nice stuff. They worked in a department store, like a fashion department store. So they had a lot of that kind of stuff. But a lot of it was just super beat up. But this thing is very, very clean. For $45, I had it for $50. Sent me an offer for $45. I was excited to get that offer because, as I said, usually not the best offers in the world. I'm going to go the backside of this. You guys can use your imagination. It's a little bit more detailed. but these are truck nuts. These are 8 inches. There's a couple different sizes. If you run into the 8-inch ones, they're actually not bad. It's $14.99 plus shipping on top for that one. The smaller one's not really worth it unless you like people seem to lot them up. But people hang them off the back of their truck to be funny. But not a bad little pickup. That came from the storage unit as well. Another storage unit find. I'm not even sure how to say this. Kitticaris. This is a NES game or a Nintendo game. Sold that for $19.99 plus shipping. Sold it super quick, and unfortunately, I'm waiting for a cord to come in because I also got a regular Nintendo in this storage unit. I'm waiting for a cord to come in, and this has to go out today, and it's the only game I got for the original Nintendo. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to test that to its fullest ability. I'll probably wait it. I do think I might have one game someplace in a tote someplace that had like no value, or may have like Jeopardy or something. I don't know. I'll have to dig around and see if I have another game. But be a little bit before I can actually test that. Up next, this sold for $75. I got a message offer on eBay. This is a Rolo Link chain. I know nothing about jewelry. I'm horrible with this stuff. But $925 sterling silver. I'm trying to sell this stuff for more than the weight price and just bring it into my local guy that usually melts my jewelry because I have no idea what I'm doing. But in this case, definitely silver on this one, and just decided that it was 26 grams and it was a 24-inch chain. Put it up for $85. Got the offer for $75. I actually thought, because I have a secondary chain, I thought it was this. And this chain, I was working on a deal on Facebook, as well as they were going to pick up this pendant. And I ended up taking it down, but realizing today that I took down the wrong chain. So we'll have to redo that. The person on Facebook was never really going to buy it. Looking at their reviews, they kind of flake a lot, and we were kind of at that point where they were flaking and no longer responding to me. $6.39 for this Mickey Mouse watch. This thing is not tested and has seen better days. It's broken on the top. It's got the Disney branding back here. It is nice and clean. It's not bad. The band's in good condition other than the fact the clasp is broken. But might be just a battery and a new clasp. And if you know how to do that, great. It's a nice little watch. With the Mickey hands that move. I've had that forever. That was on sale. I got this from a storage unit prior, not the newest one, but these are just little kids' Nike shoes. I love little kids' shoes. Usually I can get like $10 to $15 for a pair. These ones are definitely lower end. I think I had these up originally for like $9, and they've gone on sale. They've sold for $6.38 for the pair. Just a little child care or child's ones. It'll move, but usually I try to get a little bit more than those. This was my very first yard sale this year. I picked this up probably a little more than a month ago. This was back to like, I don't know when I got this, but sold it for $15, $14.99. I still have the tag on there, what I sold it for, because I've lost my tablet, what I usually use for having the pricing, but $14.99. This thing is destroyed, beat up, but I got it for $1 at a yard sale, and I also got a Muppets thing for $1 from there as well. That ended up selling for like $50. So great start to the yard sale season. Only got 3 things from that yard sale. Got some video games that haven't sold as well. Lower end, just a lot of DS games. Got this from a storage unit. This is just a wolf shirt. This is like the main wolf, then it has 2 other wolf heads on the side of it. Not going to take it out of the bag. It only sold for $8. Not branded or anything. This one is kind of unfortunate. So this is a complete pencil kit. So colored pencils. Has like 2 little trays of like nicer colored pencils. All of them are in there, not really used. I sold that for $24.99. I have another one that's missing 1 pencil, and I put that one for $19.99. So altogether, I think my ask on it is like $44.99 for the 2 trays. I sold this on eBay, and about an hour later, I got a message on Mercari, because every morning I delist all my stuff. I use a cross-listing service to cross-list my items to Mercari, usually eBay, Poshmark, and Facebook Marketplace are the 4 primary ones I use. So I had them both cross-listed, and they wanted both of them for $40 instead of the $44. I would have taken that offer in a heartbeat, but I knew that I had already sold that on eBay, so I had to just take it down and cancel the listing, and that just ended that offer. So kind of unfortunate that I didn't get both to move both on that same time. $32.50. We sold this Coolpix. What is this? Coolpix 950. So this camera is, I might take this out of the box and ship it. I don't know. We'll have to look. Because I took the pictures without the box, and then I found the boxes This was actually picked up a yard sale last year. And I meant to put like rephoto with the box on there, but I completely forgot to do it, even though I put it back in the box. So it'll probably be cheaper to send without it, but if I can, if it doesn't make too much of a difference to ship with the box, just with the size, I might do that. This sold for $53 or what did this sell for? My sticky note, $53.20. So this is on sale. These are gear wrench set. These ones are the nicer ones because they have the double like wrench. I forget what this is called, but you can put the wrench on there and twist it easy that way. And then you also have and this like is a rotating wrench socket, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a big tool person, but and then you got the original wrench. So nice little setup there. This came from my newest storage unit, $14.99. It's like a little goat demon statue. I can't remember what exactly his name was, but just like a little plastic piece, nothing too crazy on that one. But some of the statues from this unit are fantastic. Again, from the storage unit, we got a Rolodex. This is like the metal version. I went through and I picked out all the cards that they had. They were using this. We got one that actually stuck in there, so luckily we did this little spin. But everything in there should be cleaned out now. I got a message. I sent an offer on this, and I got a message instantly asking if it was working. I told them, yep, everything's great on it, other than the fact that it's missing 2 feet at the bottom, so you just got to put a little rubber feet on there. And they bought it, but this was not the person that had the offer. So one thing I've noticed with eBay, when you do send offers, it tends to trigger your things up to the very front there. From the storage unit again, this is a 5% offer, $14.24. This is like a little potted hanging plant. This thing's like 3 inches. I think they called it like a bean pot or something like that. But little cast iron cauldron planter, pretty cool there. So this, I picked this up at a yard sale last weekend, $28.49. So an offer, probably a 5% offer on this. This is Julius Peppers. This is an old vintage Reebok jersey here. Pretty cool one. I picked up a bunch of jerseys for $5 each, as well as an LL Bean weather clock, which I've already sold for $180. I spent $70, I think, $75 at that sale. So very happy with the overall result. I'm already up in the money, and that's the first jersey to sell. All the jerseys were vintage, so like nothing like crazy big names. And there were a lot of youth in there, but the youth ones I picked up that were like quarterbacks or like Devin Hester, stuff like that. Some of the bigger names. $12.34, J14 magazine. I'm just randomly putting these all up for like anywhere from $11 to $15, depending on what it has in it. If they have a poster in there, this one, it might just be like the little like, these are considered posters. And then if you take the staples out, you can get like little, whatever the 90s you used to get. My sister had these all over her wall. You know, you took them out. I don't think this has one like big poster in it. So the bigger posters I put up for a little bit more money. And then the final item that we have sold, this is just a little pair of binoculars, $8.54. Nothing too crazy with these ones, but once again, this came out of that storage unit as well. So these are all stuff that I've had for no more than like 2 weeks. So happy to see this stuff going, and like some of the stuff that's selling, like a Rolodex, these binoculars, the crystal candle, like colored pencils that came from the storage unit. I'm thrilled to see moving. So better values. We have some things up into like the 50s. Some of the cards I sold, which I don't go over on this channel, but were decent sales. So starting to see a little bit of an influx there. Starting to see things pick up. But if you guys want to follow my journey as a reseller, please like, comment, subscribe. All that greatly helps me out. I'll catch you guys in the next one.